Myles Gallagher is my name, and I was born in Baltony on the 10th of the 10th, 32, to Cornelius and Margaret Gallagher. There were 6 in our family altogether, and I was the youngest. The oldest, called Sheila, she fell into a tub of hot water in my grandmother's house when she was 3 and died, the oldest. And then that was my mother never spoke about it very much, you know. It must have been a big trial for them. It happened in the granny's house when Mary, Margaret's mother, was born. And then the family then, Mary was born after Sheila died, and Mary, and then Hughie came after that, and then Madge and Ned, and I was Myles, the youngest. But then I started school when I was about 4, and Kesnagore School was about 2 miles up the road, you know. We were walking every day. One night they were talking in the kitchen about someone dying in the locality. My mother would say, or the conversation went that maybe 3 would die. Whenever 1 died, 1 and 3 would die. And I felt I was the one that was going to die. And I went to bed that night, and I started to get panic attacks then from then on, you know. And anyway, my mother usually would soothe me by giving me some holy water to drink, you know, to get rid of the anxiety that I had, you know. But then the funny thing was, then that happened at home. But then one day when I was at school, I was told to read, and I stood up to read, you know. And when the panic attack came on me when I started to read, and I felt the same way that I was going to die, and I had to sit down, and I felt all hot and bothered, and you know. For the rest of the time then at school, I wasn't able to participate in any any lessons, you know. Because of the panic attacks, I didn't read at all, anything, until I was 25. Like I left school at 14, and my education finished then, and for the rest of my life I never went to college. Up until then I would be working on the farm, you know, and doing odd jobs, you know, going to the bog and, you know, taking tea up with my mother to the team that were up on the bog, you know. Then a contract came up that 100 glass houses were to be constructed, you know, tomato houses and God Hawk area. 75 feet long by 15 feet wide, and I got a job at that, painting the timbers that were going to be used for the construction. When that was completed then, I got a job in Dunfanaghy to train as a barman, you know, in the Tanner's Bar. I was very young to be doing that kind of work, you know, in the bar. I had to wash bottles, and at that time a big barrel of Guinness would come, and I had to bottle it, you know, and put a cork into a big cork to push it down. It wasn't a lid that was on it, you know. And it was all a big process, you know. So then my next job then, more or less my first job, in the garage, the local garage, there was a Ford Prefect being repaired for a man that was going to buy it, an old Ford Prefect, you know, early 40s I suppose, you know. So I came into the garage, and I started to help the mechanic and doing work on this car, you know. And I didn't ask for a job or anything. And I kept coming day after day for a while, and at the end of the week, the owner, Mickey Mulheron, he gave me 30 shillings, you know, for the week, you know. And I said, that's too much, I said. So I gave 10 shillings back, and I had £1 for the week. That was my wages then, you know, £1 a week for working 7 days. You know, and I was employed. I didn't ask for the job, but I paid, getting the pay. And from then, from the early age, I was only 16 when I taught myself how to drive a car when they would be away from the car. There was an Austin 1938 model there, an Austin 12, and I would go into this car, and I would go forward a little bit and go reverse a little bit, and I got the feel of the car, on my own without anyone training me or anything. And then one day, a man with his car said to me, "We'll go for a run." So he took me on the road, it was my first experience on the road, and I was driving this car, Then I got a license, and before long I was driving a taxi at 16, And the first license I got from Lifford County Council was 5 shillings without having to do a test or nothing, And there was hardly any cars on the road then, very, very few cars. No, there was no private car. They were all either a doctor or a priest or a school teacher. Very few people had a car. But anyway, the thing happened then that I was only about, just over maybe 17 or so, maybe if I was that. And I said to my mother, "I'm going to Glasgow," I said, And for a man young, for a man so young, to say I'm going to Glasgow, because I had a cousin in Glasgow, and I felt that I wouldn't be left alone, that I could stay with them, So I went to Glasgow, and we went to Derry. There was a boat operating that time from Derry to Glasgow, Derry boat they call it. So I got the Derry boat and went to Glasgow, and I went to my cousin's house, Hugh Duffy, his name was. His mother was my auntie. She was Bridget Gallagher, that's my father's sister, and I went to his house, and he was married to Margaret Shields from Glasgow, and the Shields family owned a lot of pubs in Glasgow, and they were a well-to-do family. But Hugh Duffy, my cousin, he was an expert at the violin, he could play the violin, and he could sing songs. Sometimes at that time, it was around Christmas time, we would go to parties in the Shields families, and that one family now and the other family again, and he would sing, and his memory was fantastic, he could sing songs, continually, It's funny, now that I'm talking about songs and singing, I think I won't sing this song, but it's called my Donegal, and it goes, "Skragal mo chrihu tir chonel yastor, na laimer vau shod glas sa narig oor. Graim ho goni gomohos gomal, agus malama chrihu a handu Donegal. Niel conda in eri nistishin na hu, niel Denise Donwar is more for clue, na ta dir chonel on Panama Canal, o bla barn ar dir hu a handu Donegal. Ta changi ar sincher a lotan gofoil, go melis blind blaste leoran agus kjol. Na hangels na flahish gan smatu gan smal, Graham Hogoni a handu Donegal. That's the handu Donegal. Then talking about Glasgow then, I stayed in Glasgow for 3 months. I wanted actually to get a job as a tram conductor, but I was too young. I wasn't 18 at the time. They wouldn't take me in the tram until I was 18. So I was working for a building contract, and it was hard work, and I wasn't really fit for that kind of hard work, especially with panic attacks and everything. And anyway, I went to London, where my sister Madge was living in London. And I stayed with her for a while, and then I came back again to Glasgow, travelled both ways on a bus. Then I came home again, and I worked again as a taxi driver when I came back to Gallagher, as a job that I had. Then at 18, my friend of mine, Paddy Boyle, we used to hear that everything was made in Birmingham. That everything, so it must have been a big industrial city. So I decided with Paddy that we would go to Birmingham. So we went to Birmingham, went to a boat from Dublin and went to Birmingham. And the first job we got was assembling at the Eddie and motor bicycle in Silly Oak. From there, we did a little while there, and then we got a job as tram conductors in Birmingham. I was aged then, I was over 18 then, so I was a tram conductor. Round about the 50s, you know, very early, just a 50 or 51, yeah. After a while, I went to London, and I got a job in London because my sister was there. So I went to a place called Hammersmith, a well-known place in London. And I got a job at Telford's Meat Pie in Fulham, and I went to the Isle of Wight then, and I got a job as a tram conductor in the Isle of Wight. And it covered the whole island, you know. It was beautiful. I thought we see the big liners coming into Southampton. It was only about 3 miles out from the mainland, you know. It's a lovely island. We went to Jersey then for a while, and then we tried to get work in Jersey Island. So I got a flight back to Dublin, and that was my first flight on a plane, on a DC-3, you know. It was an experience for coming back to Dublin on a plane. I forget what happened when I came home from that experience with Birmingham and Isle of Wight and Jersey, and I went back again to England, and I thought I would go to Liverpool, but then I went to Manchester, then I went to Bristol, and I got a job as a tram conductor in Bristol, but I didn't take it on, you know. I went back to Birmingham again, where I was used to. I got a job in the gasworks in Birmingham, you know, painting the big gasworks, your tanks, you know, big tanks. And I got a job in Cadbury's chocolate factory, night shift, you know. So I was there doing milk tray, you know, packing milk tray chocolates. Conveyor belt going along, you'd throw in a line of sweets from the conveyor belt, and then you would pack them into a box, you know, milk tray. It was piecework. The more boxes you did, you know, the more pay you got, you know. And I was still under 21 at that time, and I wasn't getting full pay, even though I was doing exactly the same work as those who were 21 or over, you know. Anyway, I got a job then on the top of the conveyor belt, where the centers were put on before they were covered with chocolate. And the job was when the chocolate was soft on the sweets, we had little instruments in our hands that we would press and put a decoration on each sweet, you know. And there were 6 of us on each side, 3 on each side of the conveyor belt. On the night shift, only the men worked the night shift, the women didn't. During the day, it was continually going 24 hours a day, and we'd be chatting away during the night, you know, and telling jokes, listening to music. They'd be playing records all night. It's a big factory in called Bourneville, where the chocolates are named after that name, you know, Bourneville, you know, it's a suburb in Birmingham, you know. What happened then, we were also going, Paddy Boyle, my friend from Gallagher that originally went to Birmingham, we decided that we would take up jobs as radio operators on board ships, you know, worldwide. So we got to know a place in Leamington Spa where a man had a Marconi radio school. He could train people to operate, how to operate, be a radio operator on board ship, you know. So we had to learn the theory of electric and Morse code signals. It was all Morse code then. There was no speech at all, you know. It was all signals, you know, in those days, you know. So anyway, after a while, working night shifts in Cadbury's and going to Leamington Spa and doing training at the weekend, one day I looked at a paper, even though then I wasn't reading, I said, but I would have an odd glance maybe at the paper sometime. And I said to Paddy, look what see, there's free passage in New Zealand. Immigration, free passage in New Zealand. So I said to her, to hell with the radio school, we'll apply to the New Zealand government in London and get the free passage to New Zealand. So we did that, and we were interviewed and everything. So the date was fixed when we were going to New Zealand, and Paddy and I. My brain, you could see, when we were in New Zealand. It got on, quick 4 hours. At home, and I had to wait until October until the ship was same ship every 3 months that it took New Zealand, and there was 1,000 people on board, wasn't immigrants on board the ship each time. I went on my 21st birthday. I left Glasgow on the Captain Cook bound for New Zealand, and for free passage. And I didn't tell anyone that I was 21. It'd probably be a party for me if I told them on the circular. Sailing on the 10th of October, sailing from Glasgow, 1953. At 4 weeks it took, through the Panama Canal. It was an experience going through the Panama Canal because one side, the ocean is higher on one side than the other, and there's locks on the Panama Canal, and the ship goes from one depth of ocean or channel, to filled up, and then it goes into another high to come to the level of the other ocean. So it's a very good experience going through the Panama Canal. I had to go to the South Island. Paddy was working in Wellington, and that's in the North Island, but it's in the south part of the South. It's the South, There's a channel between the North and the South Island, New Zealand. And anyway, Paddy was working in Wellington, and I was told on the ship, we were told where we were going to go. We had a 2-year contract to fulfill the job that you would be given, and I wasn't a tradesman, so I had an unskilled job, so I was into a factory in Dunedin. So anyway, I went by train. I went by ship first of all from Wellington to Littleton, then to Christchurch, and we got a train then to Dunedin, and that's in the southern part, the south part of the South Island. My job was to take all the rough things off the taps, and get them ready for chrome plating, So anyway, I got sick of that job, and I was meant to stick at it for 2 years. So I saw again before I started to read, I saw a paper one day, and it said there was vacancies in Milford Sound for staff for the hotel. So I thought to myself, that suits me, So I got a bus from Dunedin down to Milford Sound, and Milford Sound is the most beautiful place in New Zealand, the South Island. It's like Norway. The ocean goes 10 miles in, and there's mountains 5,000 feet high on each side, and it's beautiful, really wonderful, Milford Sound. And there's nothing in it but a hotel, and on the way to get into it, there's a tunnel, Homer's Tunnel. My memory's not too bad. It's called Homer's Tunnel, and in the winter time it's all snowed up. So that means that the hotel is only open for about 6 months a year, but the sea entrance is open all the time. But the hotel, it's a luxury hotel. It was a brand new hotel, and. I just go to show you, in those days, in the early 50s, it was only £3 to have a lovely room in that hotel, for guests, It was so cheap when you think of it now, But anyway, to make a long story short, I stayed there for a season, and then when the season was over, I went I had got a job at the Hermitage, Mount Cook. That's the highest mountain in New Zealand. It's over 20,000 feet high. Very high mountain, the highest in New Zealand, called Mount Cook. Then After a while then, I left the hotel there again, and I went to North Island, to a place called Wairaki, and that's near Rotorua, where all the hot springs are. The Rotorua is it's Maori, associated with Maoris. There's a high concentration of Maori people living in the Rotorua area. And anyway, I got a job at the hotel belonging to the government too, the same group of hotels. A big change from the mountains, from Hermitage. But anyway, Wairaki was flat, but it had geysers. And the funny thing about the geysers, when you would go, the guide would be in the valley where springs, there would be hot pools and boiling mud, everything like that, And the guide was so aware of how the geysers would operate. They would bring the tourists right up to the area where this geyser is due now to play, and the water would go right up in the air, the hot water, And anyway, I stayed there for a while, and then would you believe what then? Traveling got into my brain, I think, when I was working at the hotel, I saw an ad again in the paper, a trip on the boat around the South Sea Islands, Fiji, Tonga and Samoa. So I applied to the shipping company, and I got myself a ticket, and it was £99 sterling money at that time, £99 for 3 weeks around the islands. And I sailed then from Auckland. I left the job in Wairaki, and I went to Auckland and got the ship there called the Tofua, T-O-F-U-A, Tofua. There was 2 ships doing it, Matua, M-A-T-U-A, and Tofua, two ships. And they only had about 20 passengers on board, and it was mainly cargo trading with the islands. And I had a cabin to myself, and for £99, 3 weeks, it was fantastic, First we went to Fiji. We were 2 places in Fiji. We went to, first of all, we called at a port, and then went to Suva, which is the capital of Fiji. And then we went then to Tonga, and from Tonga went to Samoa, both Samoa. There's American Samoa, Pango they call it, and then Samoa under New Zealand government. But now they have the republic. It became a republic after that. But Pango still belongs to the Americans. It's in the South Pacific. The 2 Samoas are near each other. But anyway, I came back to New Zealand again then from the 3 weeks. It was lovely weather and everything, and it was a great experience going on the islands. There was there's something about the smell and I forget the flower. It was like a frangipani or something. I forget, but there was lovely flowers on the trees and everything, and the customs of the people. I remember one day I was on a bus going to visit some people in the island and Samoa, and when the people were getting on the bus, I noticed they had little pigs with them, and the pig was killed, a small pig, and it was carried in a bag. And they said when they visit each other, they bring gifts like that, I used to take what they call 35mm slides, I had a projector and everything, and I used to show them. I took even in New Zealand, my experience, Milford Sound, all the places I've been to, I was taking films all the time. I had hundreds and hundreds, and in the end, what happened was, with the slides and the projector that I had, and the camera that I had then as well for taking more pictures, I gave everything I had to St. John of God Home in Christchurch. I thought they had children there, and I thought it'd be good to give. I didn't want to carry these things anymore, I was finished with that part of my life when I was taking pictures and all, that sort of thing. I don't have them anymore, but I give them all away. Anyway, I came back to New Zealand again then, and I came to Auckland. So I got a job at the Hermitage again on the South Island where I was originally. When I came back from the island, I got a job there, and a night porter's job. So I had a hut outside to myself because when you night shift in the ordinary dormitories for staff, it'd be too noisy for sleeping during the day. So I had a little hut of my own. So anyway, what happened then, the first day I arrived at the Hermitage, when I went to the dining room, I saw this woman, this waitress, and I said, didn't I see you somewhere before? And her name was Terry Armstrong. And I met her in Christchurch at a hotel where I worked there for a little while too. And she was a head waitress then. And that's why I said to her, didn't I see you somewhere before? And she fell in love with me right away. And from then on, when I was at the hotel, she was my girlfriend, you know. And I never had girlfriends before. I was too busy traveling, and you know, I would enjoy dancing with girls, you know, but I never had a girlfriend that I could like Terry was with me then, you know. What happened? I thought to myself, I don't want to get involved. I'm a traveling man, so I don't want to get tied up or anything. She seemed to be the type that want to get married, you know. So I said. I got the idea that I would come home to Ireland. You know, it was early in '58. Yeah. Telling Terry that I would go home, so I did come home. So that time, you know, I travelled by sea from New Zealand to Australia, and then. From Australia to Italy on the Neptunia, Italian line, Lloyd Trostino line. It made my memory. I'm able to remember that, you know that. And we went through the Suez Canal, and there was a war. If you remember, I think it was '57, Suez Canal between Israel and Egypt and that. And the Suez Canal was closed for a long time. There was mines and everything in it. But we were one of the first ships to go through. So we came through the Suez Canal. Now as I told you, we went through Panama, first of all, going to New Zealand. Then I was coming back then to Suez. So through the Mediterranean then, and to Naples. And from Naples, the condition was on the ship at the time that you got a travel ticket, a rail ticket from Naples to London for £10. And you could break the journey anywhere you went in Europe, you know, travelling to London. That was the condition of the trip on the ship, you know. So anyway, my first journey was from Naples on a ferry to Capri, and then to Sorrento, another ship, you know, another boat to Sorrento, and we walked all the way to Rome. I was on my own. I wasn't saying I was on my own then, and we went to Pompeii, then to Rome. Venice and Florence. Florence was the last thing, and I enjoyed, you know, the difference between the cities in Italy. You know how they vary from, like Venice and Florence are very different, and you know Pompeii and all you know, they're all different. You know. Anyway, I went then to London, and when I arrived at the station in London. I was going to go to my sister's place at Roehampton. Madge, my sister, she was married then to Dennis Brennan. I came home then, and as I say, I tried to get away from Terry, you know, Terry Armstrong that I met at the Hermitage. And before we left New Zealand, I started to write to her then from the ship, you know, saying that I don't know. I said that I loved her. I didn't tell her when I met her, when I was with her, that I loved her, you know. I feel that was too much of a commitment, you know, when you say that, you know. So I didn't say I love you, but I did say in the letters that I loved her. I showed that I was really, you know, keen on her, you know. So after a while, I went back to New Zealand, and by that time she had written to me, and she wasn't a Catholic, but she said she would become a Catholic. So when I went back to New Zealand, she already had received baptism, and she was a Catholic. She was from New Plymouth, and I went. She met me then, and We stayed a few days in New Plymouth, and we got a job then again at a hotel in Milford Sound, starting again doing the rounds, and she was a head waitress, and I got a job as a barman. So we went there, and after a while, Terry and the manager fell out, so she had to leave, and the manager said to me, will you leave too? Well, I said, she's my girlfriend, I said, so I went with her, we left the hotel, and we went then to a place called Marlborough Sounds, a place called Machiwiki on the north of the South Island, and the area is full of fruit farms and tobacco farms. So Terry and I got a job there, and we did a while there, and after a while then, after coming home to Ireland and trying to get away from her, and then going back again and being with her again and working now on the farm after leaving the hotel, I had to leave with her, and after a while I said, I went, I don't know how it came about, whether I saw in the ad in the paper or not. I got a job anyway with the Air Force, and New Zealand Air Force. And I want to get away from Terry again, but I didn't tell her that, I just left, and it was Anzac Day, the 25th of April, that's called Anzac Day. That's New Zealand Australian Armed Forces. It's a day that's especially commemorated in that part of the country. Anzac Day, they call it, when they were involved in the last war and that. So I joined the New Zealand Air Force that day. I went to, that 25th of April, in 1958, and I did my training at the. I wanted to become an operator, a radio, because I was doing radio training. So, but the amount of training that I did, I thought the Air Force would be able to make use of it. And anyway, I was told then, after doing the manual training, they offered me catering because I was familiar with hotels and everything, and they thought I was an expert at doing the dining room, looking after the dining room areas and at the Air Force base. Terry at that time was working in Blenheim in a hotel in the north of the South Island. So anyway, what happened was, I was writing to Terry again, after leaving, thinking that I could leave the second time, thinking that the Air Force might take me away from her, but it was too strong as an attachment, So I said to the commanding officer, I said, I want to retire from the Air Force. He says, why? Well, I didn't tell him, I said, I have my reasons, I said, So I left anyway. So I went to Blenheim, and didn't I propose to Terry when I met her, just to set a marriage date, So we set a marriage date for the 1st of November 1958. We both of us got a job in Wellington, and she was in a hotel as a waitress, and went on as a head waitress. She got a job in a cafe. She was a good head waitress, but she got a job anyway in a cafe in Wellington, and I got a job as a barman for the Air Force at Shelley Bay in Wellington. That's a place where administrative air people stay. There's a camp there, So I got a job in the sergeant's mess to be a barman. So also I got a job in Wellington during the day. That was an afternoon job. I got a job to be in a cake shop, doing work, where pastries were made and all that sort of thing. I had a sort of a job there for a while. So I would meet Terry every day when I would be in town for this job. Then I would go back to the base and do the airman's work there, the barman work there, And anyway, we set anyway for November the 1st, and we got married in New Plymouth on the 1st of November 1958, and Paddy Boyle was my best man, the one that the friend all my life, more or less. and we went to Birmingham together, and then we weren't together in New Zealand, but he was my best man at the wedding, and that was the only relation that I had on my side. There was a lot on Terry's side because she was from there. And anyway, we went to Wanganui then, and that's where we had our first wedding night in Wanganui. That's a town near New Plymouth. We got a job then again, both of us, at Milford Sound, back again to Milford Sound. And she was a head waitress and I was a cocktail barman again. So there was a different manager then, so that's why the job was fixed by the general manager that owned the hotels. How he considered that we were a good team together, Terry and I. So anyway, we went to Milford Sound and we stayed there for the season then until the season closed again. As I said, the seasonal place. And we went then to the Chateau in Northern Ireland, the Chateau Hotel, which is a high mountain, and it's during the winter time, it's a skiing place, New Zealand. So would you believe when we arrived? We were very happy in our marriage for 6 months, that at Milford Sound, and then what happened when we got to the chateau? All of a sudden, something happened, and there was a radio going on in the room, and I said to Terry, switch that off, So anyway, a few remarks happened between us, and there was a rift immediately in the relationship. And from then on, I said something that I shouldn't say. I said, you son of a bitch, I said, and I regretted saying that. But I mean, it wasn't a serious thing in a way, but in the situation that we were in, she cut off, so we were separated. So that really affected me, that the marriage seemed to have been finished, And then I stayed on for a while, and I saw things that I didn't like very much, in relationship, and I tried to be as strong as I could, but very, very often I would burst out in tears before other people, and wondering if I would ever come back again, that she'd come back to me again, But anyway, after 3 months, I went to Wanganui, the town that we had our marriage. That was near the chateau. So I went there, and I knelt before the Blessed Sacrament because I became religious then, even though I was always sort of deeply religious because of the panic attacks, close to God and everything. When I went to Wanganui and knelt before the Blessed Sacrament, and I felt sure in my heart that Jesus was really present there. And up until even to present day, that experience that I had there has lasted with me ever since, That's 60 years ago,
Post my band in Zealand. I'm not happy since and the post, I guess, when she's the heart, I guess my dog G Chateau in the North Island, Dagshima. She took in the paper and signed up for the divorce. There was no more sign on it yet. No more going to stop us so good. But you must have got a good job yet, no. So she divorced Calvary. She Santa Cruz comes in now. Again, this one went to Sheath from my depression. I said, no, I had on the water. Because I'm in pressure to be Marital that way. We said, why go to Marital? That are my feet and all that stuff. We tried to ride to come to the man, night the free channel, took it to get in south as a jello.
So I went back to the chateau, and I decided then that I would leave for Christchurch in the South Island. So I went there to Christchurch because I couldn't do any more with Terry. She was becoming unfaithful to me and everything. So and I went to Christchurch, and I got a job then in Christchurch as a bus driver. But I had to do training for a week, you know, and the instructor that I had, he drove me crazy, you know, and I said, well, I'm fed up with you. I said, you drive me crazy, you know. So he apologized then, you know, that he got on my nerves, you know. So anyway, I persevered then for another week or so. So I was a bus driver then, and I was 3 years a bus driver in Christchurch, you know. Because of leaving Terry and everything, I became, as I say, I became very religious, and I was going to mass every day. And I met a priest called Monsignor Liddy, and he was very good to me. He understood. I told him the story, you know, what happened and everything, and I said it was God's will for you that you married this woman, because you thought, you know, that good would come out of it. But I took a risk, you know, and being optimistic as I was, I thought, well, if you put your hand in God's hand, you have a chance of surviving, you know. So anyway, he said, don't worry too much about it. He said, you know. So anyway, I kept going. I was in the the cathedral parish, and I would be going every day to mass, and I was driving the buses then. And Christchurch only had one depot. You know, it's a very large city. They're one of the second largest in New Zealand. And well, no, third maybe. Wellington's the second. Auckland's the first. After I joined the Third Order of St. Francis then, because that was another thing I did. I started to read A Life of St. Francis, you know. That's when I started to read, after not reading for as I say, from 14 right up. I said, not to look at the paper, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I read all sorts of things. But I didn't read any books or anything. And now I start to read books. And when I went to Wanganui, as I say, the place where I went to, I got The Imitation of Christ and A Life of St. Teresa of Avila and the New Testament and several other books. And a book called The Virtue of Trust. I can still remember the books I got, you know. And I kept reading them. As I say, things were going well then, you know. I was settling down. Also, I would take an odd drink, you know, and all of a sudden I felt that I would be drowning my sorrows with too much drinking wine, you know. So I decided, I went to a priest and I said, I want to take the Pioneer Pledge, you know, to go off the drink. So he says, he took my pledge. So I became a pioneer, but you had to do 2 years, then you became a full-time pioneer, you know, abstinent. So I did nearly 60 years without drink, you know. Now I take an odd drink because I think in old age it's better to take a little bit of drink, you know. But I did almost 60 years without drinking. And I went off cigarettes at the same time as giving up the drink, you know. I never smoked cigarettes since, you know, not that one, you know. That was 59, I started to drive buses at Christchurch, and 63, at the beginning of 63, my father died, by the way, in 1959. He died of cancer in Letterkenny. And my father was dying of cancer, and he had 3 months to live, and he died within a short. He said, I want to die now rather than live 3 months. And he died anyway within immediately, rather than live 3 months. He died anyway on the 16th of September 1959, and he died on the Feast of St. Cornelius. That was his name, and that was the Feast of St. Cornelius, which is unusual, you know. You know how God works. It's amazing, you know. At that time, my wife at that time, when I was in Christchurch, she wrote to me saying she was going to get divorced, you know. So I thought there was a chance always until then, you know, that she might come back to me, you know. But now, 63, I was in Christchurch, and I got word from Mary, Margaret's mother, you know, Mary, my sister, Mary, married to Danny McGee, and Mary told me that my mother had fallen outside the house and broke her hip. and she would like, she said you should try to come home to see her, you know. So I gave up the job as a bus driver, and I came home to Ireland to see my mother. When I was home, that time I travelled that time the Suez Canal, the South African way. I came across from Australia, New Zealand, Australia to Trodden and Cape Town and up to the Canadian Islands. And so that, another 4 weeks at sea. That's 4 weeks dedicated at the sea, plus the 3 weeks around the Pacific Island. So even though I didn't get a job as a radio operator, I did my share of sea travel, you know. Anyway, I got home anyway, and but then what happened then? She got better after seeing me, because even though her hip was broken and she couldn't walk properly, she never had it operated on, you know, the whole 10 years. The hip remained broken, you know, and it was very hard to walk, you know, and she suffered a lot during the 10 years. But anyway, I decided that since she was better, that I would get a job in Dublin as a bus driver with CIE. So I applied to CIE and I got the job. And being a bus driver in New Zealand, I had no problem in getting the job. And I got the license for the CIE, and I was there from 63 to 64. That's right, 64. And then in New Zealand, as I said to you, one of the priests that were very, very good to me in Christchurch was Monsignor Liddy. And I used to go, I was in the cathedral parish, and he said to me, there's a vacancy, he said, in the cathedral for a Sacristan. Would you be interested? So after doing nearly 2 years of bus in Dublin, I wrote back to him, and seeing that Terry hadn't received their divorce yet, and I was still in contact with her sometimes, you know, I said to the Monsignor, I said, I'll accept the job. I got prepared then. I booked a ticket, an air ticket in Dublin, yeah, and I booked a ticket from London, from Dublin, London to Lisbon. I went to Fatima, I went to Rome, and at that time, 1964 in Rome, that was when the Constitution of the Church was published. And I had prayed a lot in New Zealand for the Vatican Council, and it was unusual that I should be in Rome that day when the Constitution of the Church was published, you know. And anyway, I went on then to Assisi, and then I went on to, I was flying to New Zealand to get the job, to do that sacristan job in Christchurch. I went then from Rome to Greece, you know, and then to the Holy Land. And I did a tour of the Holy Land. I arrived at Tel Aviv, and then I went to Mount Carmel and Galilee, and to Jerusalem, Bethlehem, all over. And that time it was divided. The border was in Jerusalem, you know. It wasn't, you know, the war didn't start at that time. And I had a great experience that time when I was touring the Holy Land. When I arrived in Jerusalem, the guide, the Franciscan guide in Jerusalem, being a Franciscan, I was a member of the Third Order anyway, so I knew the Franciscans, like, you know, as an order. So I asked the guide, you know, the Franciscan guide, if I could go with them on the tour. He said, be here, he said, at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I was staying somewhere, so I was there at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you know who the people were in the car? There was a car, we had a car, 3 Japanese bishops. 3 Japanese bishops in the car, and a Spanish woman. And we were taken to Jerusalem, to Jerusalem first of all, and then to Bethlehem, and then, you know, the area around about. Anyway, many of the times the Japanese bishop would ask me, well, what is he saying? Because he was speaking English, you know, even though he was Italian, you know, speaking English. And I would answer the Japanese as well as I could, you know. Anyway, this amazing thing happened the next day. I thought I wouldn't see them anymore. And when I was going to the Holy Sepulchre Church in Jerusalem, the Holy Sepulchre, I don't know if you know her, but the Holy Sacrament Church means Calvary and the tomb under one roof is one church, you know. And anyway, when I was going to the church to go mass that morning, I met the Japanese bishop again. He was going to say mass, and he said to me, "Will you say mass for me?" And luckily for me, when I was in New Zealand, Monsignor Liddy, mass that time was in Latin. He trained me how to answer mass in Latin. The Japanese bishop said, "You say mass for me?" So I said, "Yes, I will." So the mass was on Calvary, actually, on Calvary, where our Lord died. And the altar was there, and there's a big crucifix there where actually Calvary was, and you know, Our Lady's picture and everything there. So I said mass anyway for the Japanese bishop, and up until today, I think that was the greatest highlight in my life, that an Irishman answering mass in Latin for a Japanese bishop in Jerusalem, you know, on Mount Calvary, you know. It's something, you know, that doesn't 64 as well, you know. Yeah, and then from then, you know, from there I went to Beirut from Jerusalem, and then I got a plane to Bombay. Anyway, there was a Eucharistic Congress there for week long, you know. There's one in Dublin recently. I was there too, and Lourdes. Well, in '81 at a Eucharistic Congress. So I was very fortunate to have so many, you know. But anyway, and Bombay, who was there from Rome, but Pope Paul the Sixth. He's a saint now. John 23rd and Pope Paul the Sixth and John Paul the Second. Three popes that served in my lifetime. They're saints now. It's amazing, you know. You know, when I think of it, you know. But then, you know, it's a short time. But anyway, I met close by Pope Paul as he was going up to the altar in Bombay. It was outside. The whole thing was outside, you know. So then from Bombay, then I went on to Singapore when I was leaving for New Zealand. Then I went to Sydney and flew then to Christchurch. I arrived at Christchurch, so I met Monsignor Liddy. So I started then as a sacristan. That was interesting, you know, to do. But after about a year or so as a sacristan in the cathedral, doing all kinds of work, you know, associated with the cathedral, funerals and weddings, and you know, preparing ceremonies and everything like that, you know, I decided that I would go to the place where Terry was living, and then see, I was still in contact, you know. So anyway, I said to the Monsignor, I said, "I'm sorry," I said, "but I said I feel that I should go to Terry, to the area, live there, get a job there, and be there for a while to see if you'd come back to me, you know." So it showed that all my life, that was up to the 70 years, I tried to win her back, you know. With no change in her attitude from the time that she left me. No change at all. So I got a job anyway as a barman in a hotel in Hamilton. That's where she was. So one day in the hotel, a man came in, and he was a solicitor working on the case on the divorce. And he said to me, "Would you sign these papers?" I said, "to grant your wife permission to get a divorce." I said, "No," I said, "I will sign no papers." I said, "If my wife wants a divorce, that's her business." I said, "But I don't want a divorce." And I said, "It doesn't agree with my religion anyway." So I said, "I'm not going to sign it." So he would, you know. But then after a while, I saw in the paper that my wife, the judge said, a case came up before him, a woman that couldn't get permission for a divorce. There was a discretion in English law where it's possible to get a discretion where permission is not granted. So the judge in her case said in the paper, he didn't mention her name at that time, but he said, "It's a farce," he said, you know, "it's a farce," how she got it, you know. So anyway, don't worry about that. But I've seen that happened then, and she got the divorce. And I met her, you know, but you know, nothing came of it. So I said to myself, "I'm going to leave now. I'm going to Australia." So I left New Zealand in 1966. 1966, and I flew to Sydney. And you know what I wanted to become then? I wanted to become a steward on an airline, on Qantas Airlines, you know. So I went to the head office in Sydney, and I had an interview with the manager for employment there, and I said I would like to become a steward. And he said, I'm sorry, it says that we can't give you a job as a steward, but we've just built a hotel in Sydney, and you can get a job in the hotel. So I got a job in the hotel as a room service waiter. It was a 17-story high hotel. It's one of the biggest hotels in Sydney, owned by Qantas Airlines, you know. So I got a job there, and would you believe it, when I left there, in 1970 I left there, but then I went to Western Australia, but I'll talk about that later. But in that same hotel that I worked at, after I had left, Pope Paul VI had a conference there in the hotel, you know, when he visited Australia, and that was where I worked, you know. And I met very famous people at the hotel. I met the man who went to the moon, plus the others too, you know. I served them in the room, and also Dr. Bernard, who did the first heart operation, you know. And Billy Graham, the evangelist, I served him, but also Roger Moore. And the Roger Moore, you know, the 007 actor, you know, he looked at me the same way, you know. And I couldn't understand, you know, why there was a look, and I know you, you know. Anyway, you know, that's just passing remark, you know. But anyway, as I say, I stayed at the hotel then until 1969. There was an Irish association trip to Ireland. So I joined that. Coming home in '69, I was given on the flight, and we flew on Qantas Airline from Australia to Fiji, Hawaii, San Francisco, New York, and to Dublin, you know. There was a flight that time. And I bought a car of Hughy, my brother in Dublin. I bought a car of him, and I had that, you know, and I took Mary, you know, Margaret's mother. I took her to London when I was home at that time for a week's holiday, you know. Just imagine everything, you know. And it's a memory that is still deep to me. I owned the car, that's right, yeah. Yeah. And even driving to London and everything, you know, yeah. After being home, about 6 weeks or something we had, you know. I went back to Australia. I was in Australia then. We went to Amsterdam, and where else did we go? Yeah, Bangkok, I think. Yeah, Bangkok, yeah, to Sydney. The next move I made then, that was '69. Well, in 1970, I saw an ad in the paper for lay missionaries for Western Australia for the Aboriginal mission. So I applied for that, and they accepted me. So I went to Melbourne for 3 weeks training. 3 weeks training, you know, it was more of a spiritual preparation, more like a retreat, more or less. So anyway, after the training, we went by train to Perth. We were picked up then by a place called Trodden. Geraldton is not a big city, but it's the biggest town outside of Perth going north, you know, Geraldton. And then from Geraldton there's a little place called Trodden, and that's where the mission was. So we were taken there, and when I got there, my job was to be a bus driver, school bus driver. That should be fine, you know. I thought, you know, the others got jobs in dormitory attendants, and you know, some of them, well, there's a farm too, and some of them had different jobs. But also my job was a baker. So I was taught the first day I arrived how taken into the bakery by the superintendent of the mission. He showed me how to bake 40 loaves, starting from scratch, you know. He wrote it down for me, the recipe, and I was left next day on my own. After 1 day training, you know, the oven and everything was there, you know, revolving oven, you know, gas and electric and stuff going on. So 40 loaves. So I was there, but you know, the first day, it's amazing. I'll never forget this. You know, And after being trained to do it, the next day I was on my own. What I did, instead of cutting down from 500 to 350, which is the normal temperature for baking, I went the other way around, and I went round to 350, the right, going round, and which meant that it was sky high, maybe 800 or something, instead of 350. So when the bell rang, I thought, well, here there he goes, the bread is ready, and there's black and razor spades. So the next day I started immediately again after doing that mistake, and I did a perfect job then. But like everything I did, no matter what kind of job I had, I always tried to improve on what I was doing, and I felt always that I could improve a bit more each time, either giving it a few minutes extra in the oven, or some others, there's many other things that you can do, to improve it, Anyway, that's one thing. But anyway, that's the jobs I had. Anyway, driving the school bus, taking the children from the mission. The children at the mission, there was 150 altogether, and they ranged from 5 to 15. And some of them went to high school, which was 40 miles away, and that was where the school bus came in. So anyway, I was there for 2 years, and then 2 years was the period that you would do as lay mission work. You only got a few dollars pocket money. You did it for nothing, more or less, for the love of God, But you got a little bit of pocket money. So anyway, when the 2 years were up, I was so well liked, that they would like me to stay on, because I'd stay another year. So I stayed another year, and then when that was up, then there was farewell, and I went back to Perth, and I got a train from Perth to Cairns, North Queensland, going right on the street, 7 days and 7 nights on a train. Just imagine. And I could fly on a plane I could go in a matter of hours, to Cairns from Perth, But I thought it'd be an experience to go, between Perth and Adelaide. It's 1,000, I think I don't know, it's 2,000 miles or 1,000, but Perth is the most isolated, city in the world, I think, if away from any other city, And but man, I was staying at the YMCA in Perth and Cairns, and this man that I met there, he said to me, "Why are you going to a hotel?" He says, "Why don't you go to the bauxite mine at Weipa? That's further north, from Cairns, nearly at the tip of Australia, on the Thursday Island, at the very tip of it, And I got a job as a labourer, and I thought to myself, well, I didn't do much labouring in my life. I thought, what's that going to be? But I got a job as a labourer anyway, so I got the plane then from Cairns into Weipa, and things for an hour, It's a very, very isolated place, there's not very, very, very few dwellings. It's a very rough land. And I got a job then as an operator, a kiln burner operator, which is a computer board, and all really updated thing, everything automatic more or less, So I got a job on that, and I was lucky. I got good wages, when my mother died in '73. This was 74 then, and they said that my mother died. I was at the mine when my mother died, and I got no word until she was buried, and Margaret's mother, wrote to me saying that she had died, she was more or less a Franciscan herself, the way being, a hermit, living 10 years without going out at all, and living in home for 10 years, And she died in '73, but she died on the Feast of St. Louis. Oh yeah, when I came home, yes, that's right. When I was from the mine, I was coming home. I went to Brisbane then from the mine, and I went to Brisbane, and I got a flight to the Philippines, and I was to meet a priest from home. who was a missionary there, Father Vincent Gallagher. He's related to me, some relation, and I couldn't meet him anyway. But then I went on to Hong Kong, and I spent a week in Hong Kong, and I was seen at the YMCA, and I bought myself suits made to measure, and shoes made to measure. And I met a retired sea captain. He was I don't know whether it's Irish or English, but he had a Chinese friend, and I met up with them, and every day they would take me out during the week I was there, and they would give me Chinese food, and they knew how to order it. I wouldn't know how to do it. They would take little bits of everything, in Hong Kong, especially Chinese, it was great, so it was great. So I was there for a week, and then I flew from there after the week, it was a good experience in Hong Kong. And I came to, it was under British then, that was what year did I say? Well, 74, yeah, that's right, 74. After I was home for a while, I thought I had more or less idea of retiring, that I had done enough, but I got a letter from the mission in Trodden where I was working for 3 years because they liked me so much, and they said, would you like to come back? and I committed myself again. I said, I wrote and I said, I'll come back, I said, So after a while at home, my brother was on his own then, and Ned was named as my brother, and he was born I was the youngest, but he was next to me. I decided that I would go to the mission. So my brother was really broke because my mother wanted me to come home to stay with my brother because of his condition, that he wasn't well. And she said the only thing I regret in dying, she said when he was dying, is that I wish that Myles would come home, but I don't like to leave Ned on his own. So I thought, when I came home, that I would stay home, because that was my mother's wish, and I would be there, and I would have a house and everything. I would not to worry about, Anyway, when the mission wanted me there, I thought I would go back, So I went back. So I flew then again to where did I go? Which way did I go then? But I went back anyway to the mission, to Perth. Flew to Perth from, Amsterdam and Hong Kong. Maybe I mentioned that before, but that's the route I took, And anyway, I arrived at the mission. I was welcomed again, because they liked me so much there, But for that time, it was 1974. How many years? 1959 when my marriage broke down, and I started to take up prayer, and I was praying constantly, all that time, Then funny thing happened then at the mission. I got the same job back again. I was a bus driver and a baker again, and about a year or so at the mission, things went against me somehow, because there was a girl there, a Dutch girl, and she was a very good-looking girl. I kind of had a soft spot for this girl, so she made a fool out of me, she more or less made a laughing stock up of me, And then when I went back to the mission then, things went against me altogether, and all of a sudden, my health began to deteriorate a bit, But it got to the stage where I would be having a meal with the staff, with the priest and everything, and they would talk about me, while I was there and the group, And being a sensitive man, this affected me so much, and it increased my anxiety, and still had panic attacks then, but not a great deal, but still, I wasn't clear of them, Anyway, it got to the stage where I could take no more, this persecution against me, where I was so well liked before, nobody had a good word for me. Anyway, I felt the priest then, when he saw that he couldn't get any sense out of me, he handed me over to a psychiatric doctor. And he put me to a mental hospital, and I had to wait a long time before I was interviewed by the doctor at the mental hospital in Perth, you know. And I was interviewed by the doctor, and I was put into bed then, and I was drugged, and it seemed to me when I was drugged that something exploded in my head. But you know, after that I was depressed. And I was given drugs then and everything, but I was only kept 2 weeks in hospital, and I came back to the same place again in Perth where they handed me over to a psychiatrist, and I could see the fears that they had, you know, handing me over to the hospital. They probably thought, you know, what are we doing to Myles, you know, a man that was so good to the mission and everything, you know. Because the depression, it affected me so deeply, you know, that, you know, and I was on the drugs then, and 2 weeks. So anyway, the group that interviewed me, what do you want to do now? This said, I said, I want to go home to London to my sister. Said, no, I don't want to stay in Australia any longer. But anyway, that was all right. So off to London I went, and I got the plane back to London. And I had to report then to a mental hospital in London, because my sister was I was staying with my sister, and I would go daily but I was so heavily drugged, you know, that I was really ill, you know. Anyway, when about 3 months were over, I came home again, you know. I left London. I came home, and after a while then, I hired a car, and I toured Ireland, all over Ireland, you know. And I visited churches, and you know, I was still religious, you know, because but being depressed, you know, it had a different effect on me, you know. It was a period that it said that the depression lasted 7 years, by the way, you know. I made a map. I got a map of Ireland, and I made a diagram, my route around Ireland, you know, and I had a directory of Catholic Church where all the churches were, and then you know, I was able to do a comprehensive, you know, tour, you know. And anyway, I ended up on the tour, and it was a pilgrimage more. It wasn't a tour in a sense, you know. But I was very happy, you know. Then you know, I felt free, you know, away, you know. Even though I was still depressed, you know, because it lasted 7 years, I said. But anyway, at the monastery where I stayed at Portlanone in County Antrim, the abbot there had a talk to me. And I stayed at the guest house at the abbey, and the abbot said, I said to him one time, you know, after I said my marriage failed in New Zealand, I wanted to join the Cistercians. There was a Cistercian monastery in Portlanone. So I said I wanted to join the Cistercian, but the abbot in New Zealand told me, your place, Myles, he said, your place is on the world. You're not called into a monastery. But you know, the abbot said to me then in Portlanone, he said, well, you know, that's a long time ago. He said, you know, maybe now, he said, you can come, we can receive you. So when I came home, I wrote to him and I said, I want to join you. I would be a brother, you're not a priest, you know. So I went there then, you know. So I went to Portlanone then. So I did 18 months there. And then I decided I was going very, very well. I was getting on well. I was really staying in the office and with the monks, you know, and working in the garden, and I was getting on well. But the abbot is still the same abbot, Abbot Kelly, Abbot Celtus Kelly in Portlanone. But after 18 months, I said to him, I said, my mother, I said, I was told in New Zealand when I wanted to join the Cistercians that the abbot there told me that my place was in the world. And I said, my mother, before she died, wanted me to stay with my brother. And I said, I feel that I would rather be a hermit rather than a monk in a monastery. Because even though I enjoyed the monastery, he understood well what I meant. He said, well, he said, if you want to go, you know, it's up to you. I had 2 months further to go before I would be professed. So I wasn't really professed, but I was a novice, but, you know, doing everything that, you know, monks do, you know. So anyway, I left then, and Seamus, you know, Margaret's brother, he went up there and picked me up and took me home, you know. That was in 77 I joined the monastery, and in 78 I came home, I think, you know. So I was home then, and my illness then was more or less still there, you know. The depression was still there, you know, kind of a dead feeling, and you know, even in the monastery, it took me a lot to live up to it, you know. You know, I was still a bit handicapped, you know, in my mind. Anyway, make a long story short, that was the last time I was in hospital. I was in Letterkenny a few times, but that was the last time, you know. And now I'm free from the psychiatrist. Give me freedom. He doesn't want to see me anymore, you know. Well, 81 I went to Lourdes to a Eucharistic Congress, you know. I came home then, and in 82 I went to Knock with Ned, and as well as suffering for many years, I suffered migraine, maybe 2 a week, and I would have to go to bed with it when it would come on me, you know, because it was so severe that I couldn't even eat, you know, and it was tremendous, you know. And as well as having the depression and everything, you know. And anyway, when Ned and I went to Knock in 82, from then on, got rid of the headaches. And as well as that, I began to get better too, and I was completely cured in 82 from the depression. It didn't happen like from 1 to 2. It didn't happen that quick, you know. But gradually, I felt that it was a Knock that I was cured, you know. I still believe that. That's why I go a lot to Knock, you know.
From a bishop, new shaft, the depression, from a master like it. And ik moet sensitive like a issue go with it. You have be all by that. You know, it's on that ik maar a risk. I got depression, migraine arm. I could be snarl and reblianti. I got some Marital on and crook with you faster. So the good go crook with you many. The month of all, rather than panic attacks said, the month of all got a scholar. I should check him over him. I could from Marital that's in fast and crook with you.
Then a few years later, I wrote again to the abbot in Port Glenone. I said I want to be a hermit, but he says you can't be a hermit, you can't take private vows unless the church the church accepts it from you. You know, I mean, you can't take private vows, but nobody knows about it. But to be official, you know, the church has to authorize it. You know. So anyway, the abbot told me this. So I went to Ards then, you know, the Ards Friary, and about private vows taken. And I was taking private vows then in Ards once a year. You must renew private vows once a year. It's chastity, poverty, and obedience.
Marital, I could rock with you. The free pastor come when it was. When you feel unto you. I was touching a good you word of them. I am some man, I get the regulate on my head. I get an able to be Havla and a heart on the box, doesn't it? Charity's word, I think the man for the man. He was a order, the accident at Aram, or will I get the order? I didn't know so much, but the charities were because there are world missions, talking and concern, for person, they're intelligent people. So but my bank when you learn my hero go and drop with you. Hey man, could have guessed where I went to doctor. I guess you might wouldn't have to do it in my house at all. Man, the Joseph Carver, I guess for my country, she wanted to wait, I guess for my country, they won. Carver lived in my country, she knew it, wouldn't see a hand. Men ikke hvis den gikk til Padre, Worms, det var Padre Lusen, og hadde gått klokk på det. Det var så alt, det var dårlig, han var det var gære skis, det var knallmat, det var vi på alt, det var rive der, det var så ikke han var det.
I approached Bishop Haggerty then, Letter Kenny, about becoming a hermit, you know. It took 5 years trying to become a hermit with the bishop, you know, writing to him and meeting him and everything. And in the end, it turned out that he wrote to me and says, you can't become a hermit. So then what happened? I wrote a letter back and I said, if I can't become a hermit, I said, can I take perpetual vows, because I'm taking private vows, and can I take perpetual vows? He wrote back to me that you can become a hermit, he said. I was delighted that.
How much you get to Nashville and there's a cannon, you come over in the hermit, and the wax a quick beyond us and looks at regular. Så det öppnade, hade jag gett away the hermit. I guess the mansion, what you can perpetual vows or lacking. I guess he said, he got away the hermit. Really went on that over. They couldn't be on the, it was a stat of the other, we took on the hermit.
So then he said to me, when would you like to be consecrated? Because, you know, you have to be consecrated in a parish where you belong to, you know. So I would be consecrated to Gallagher. So I was consecrated on the 1st of October 1992 to be a hermit, you know. And I'm now 26 years done as a hermit, and I had no problems since, you know, ever since that time, with health and everything, you know. Being a hermit means you're living more or less privately, as a, you know, without having any mission, any ministry in the church other than prayer life, you know.
So my kids go or this kid be on this and I'm aware. I guess I'm honest a hermit, I could be on a sphere a million now. My sister går man the hermit, because man get even the any small. I guess some of that of us who are only. That's 3 parts and only vocal prayer, meditation and contemplation. Well, this name or darnley and mushroom who the 3rd degree contemplation was then fear man factor was like the silence. Due to a wildness and the silence and solitude. So part of the hermit.
Then 92 to become 92 I became a hermit to year 2000 when Ned died, my brother, and I was in Adoration Chapel in Letterkenny, and Phil Clark he came into the Adoration Chapel on the 2nd of October 2000. Ned passed away, he said, in the home of Philcara. So it didn't come to me as a shock. I was happy that he was in the home anyway, because he travelled from the home that morning and came to the home, and he died there, you know. So I was happy that he was looked after, and he died on the Feast of the Guardian Angels. So I couldn't wish for a happier death for him, you know. So anyway, that's the year 2000, and then the year 2002, I started to write. And the first book I done was Do You Love Me? It was a scripture book based on "Do You Love Me?" On theme of love in the Bible from what do you call it, from the book of Genesis right to the book of Revelation. Not every book is mentioned, but I took on the famous sayings on love that appealed to me anyway. So there was about 90 of them altogether, and it's only a 28-page book, you know, but the Bible Society in Dublin did it for me. So they put it together, but it was my composition, edition, you know, I edited it, you know. And anyway, that was 2002, and I've been writing ever since, up until the present time, and now I'm finished writing. And I told you, I handed my writing over on a memory stick from the printers, you know, everything that I had written from the year 2000. Well, not everything from the year 2000, but some years I'm missing because the computer wasn't operating then. And now, whatever was in the computer that received my material, it's all in the memory sticks, and I handed it over to the Donegal library. So, you know, that more or less brings it up to the present time, so, you know.
You got all the top of the shul, I had on the wall there, and made you shovels the shade. Which go out them, I was going to cricket area and so in 3 there, when my shade rock. Get to my sheer with the follow. I guess go back from follow, the schoolman the wall I reached. I guess in some of us get the current train, because was go back from current train. I guess in some, who I get the crux on the events and Terranona, some 3 rocker and my way away. Daniel Hulma Suwala, a care hogger mighty with the button arrogant, I guess my Suez Canal and arrogant, I guess in the west, I guess Commercial getting Walkish, I guess, and I guess I Walkish, Lee Hawks and Lady.
One time, you know, I walked from home to Lardderrig, that's 26-hour walk, you know, to Letterkenny, to Muckish, Letterkenny, and then Castlederrig and Tyrone, and then to Lardderrig, you know, 26 hours. And I walk continually, you know, without, with a stop in Letterkenny for dinner, and you know, that was the longest trip I ever did, you know. And I was like a walking stick when I was at the end, you know, I was bent over, you know. You know, yeah. And I did 3 days on top of after doing and day and a night and everything for 26 hours. I did 3 days in Lardderrig with the second night in Lardderrig up all night, you know. How I did, I don't know, you know. But that's why some of the things, many times at home, I would get up at 12 o'clock at night and I would go to Marital, to the Hill of Saints, you know, and there's a way the cross there going to the top of the hill, and a big cross on top of the hill, and it's lit up at night. And I would go there at 12 o'clock at night, walk there for 2 hours, and go up to the top of the hill, and the dark and everything, and come back again 2 hours. I would go 4 hours altogether. Many times I did that, you know, from midnight. If you would see me on the road somewhere, how can you be out on the road, you know, dangerous, you know, and you're no reflector or nothing on, you know. But that's my walk, you know. But like that was the biggest walks, you know, I did. And then, you know, I would walk, you know, continually, even up to the present time. This morning, I walked to get to the bus, you know, in a half an hour walk, you know, to go to Hawk, you know, at 6:30 in the morning, you know, and at 86 years of age.
86?
You know, yeah.
Did you walk from Letterkenny to Calvary before? Or?
Oh, many times I walked from Hawk to Letterkenny, many times. 9 hours it would take, you know, yeah. I walk back again as well. And not the same day, at different times, you know, I would walk back, going through either Churchill or Emigrating, and you know,
And when we asked that, she didn't get a crock with you that they were my bishop. So they could go crock with you coming because from my bishop, I'm one, my house, my daughter, and That's my, I'm talking about in a sugar, you know. The cara bygum, agus na yes a jagum, na hali and pepper which is holding na you ma na but got a washly as the man news can over car be news got a wash or so that's a way to go right go that's what top the president of America.
I had hardly any English when I first went away, you know. And I never learned grammar. I would a little bit of school, you know, but I never knew English until I went away. And even like music, you know, you can play music by ear, and you can speak English by ear too, without knowing grammar. I had no study grammar at all, you know. But I had no education at all. It's amazing, you know, that whatever, like I didn't, as I mentioned before, I didn't read until I was 25, except little sketches on a paper maybe, you know, I mentioned, you know. But like when I got the books then, as I mentioned, you know, I kept reading books, and only last night did I make a promise to God that I wouldn't buy any more books, you know. You know, now that I've finished writing too, I don't need to anymore. But you know, I thought even today, I thought it one other time too, you know, from God's point of view, I say to myself, you know, being a Catholic and that, and a member of the church and everything, is there any need for me to be writing, or who am I influencing by my literature anyway, when the church all over the world, every day and every Sunday, is communicating the gospel to everybody, you know. So I participate in that. I mean, because, you know, when you're a fully pledged member of the church, you know, you can't do everything, but we all, like the Lord said, I am the vine, you are the branches. So we're all united together, and you know, the church does what you're not able to do yourself personally.
Sanne digan anje agum kortnai at malam hain rugan naam what ma mui khoj hoda naam fijil wae but to come so me do half a shot of agus the man saga gene the hand wada agus sun solid silence of solitude, you know, the ma practice as khoj hoda naam.
All my life, even my wife said, when she was leaving me, she said, you should have been a priest, you know. Well, after 40 years, we got in touch with each other again. 40 years, you know, yeah. But then, after a while, when we were right a little while, she took it well at the beginning, but then after a while, maybe I was too keen, maybe. But I wanted to see her, you know. And then she broke off again, you know. But now, from the time that the marriage broke up, this is the 60 years I was married, you know. This is 18, you know, 58 I was married. So next year would be 60 years since he left me.
You mag kiss for a while at Howard, to come the Howard. Oh, this is the Hermit, how do you get to the Howard? That's special. My father appreciate that the Hermit of the young or so good. He was not a you know. But to my sister going on the Hermit because I get even the any slow. She didn't go to the tower and Crockwillie, Keith gave to the rest. Sin omlan vision knock war Chris offer la han Suez la gradúne la go paki ar di hú agus bag údarú agus sinne mini Armstrong has vision knock mu agus tá sonna chuidú gom le si mini sné.
Maybe I'm prolonging it. And it might be interesting from people listening to it in the future. You know that. You know.